Hey guys, welcome. It is Sunday, October 6th. Bitcoin is at 62,300, more or less. And I want to spend this little bit of time going over where we are with the power law. I want to take a fresh look at the numbers. I haven't done this in actually a couple months. You don't need to do it every day or every week, but every couple months the data changes. And so it's worthwhile to take a quick look at where we are with the power law. Are we undervalued, overvalued, etc.? And what is this thing? So I posted something on Twitter, but I want to take you guys through the actual numbers. Okay. So let's go to this sheet. I just updated the sheet on October 6th. And basically, what do I have in this sheet? So the sheet's all you need to do the power law. And basically, I have the dates. I have monthly info date. I just added in, I hadn't done this since March, really. But I added in the price. And we've basically been trading at 60,000 for 6 months, right? So we were at 69, 60, 67, 62, 64, 68, and 63 on October 1st, right? I'm only caring about where we were on even dates, right? And we calculate the time since the genesis in years. I take the logarithm of that. I take the logarithm of this price, and we estimate the power law from this these two logs. We go back here. You can calculate it yourself. We get a slope, which is now a little bit lower. The slope has reduced. It was 5.7 last time I checked. This time it's 5.6 or 5.56. So it's gone down a little bit. So the power law is saying we're going up a little slower, which makes sense because we should be slowing down with time. But the data is also indicating now slowing down. So we're at kind of at a 40% expected return right now, not a 45% expected return. Anyways, that gives you a sense of where we are in the power law. 6 months have gone by. It's mainly a model of time, so that gives you a sense of that. And let's take a look at a few things. So the first thing is log of price versus log of time. And I stretched this out to 1.5 units in log years. So 1.4 corresponds to 10 years from now, right? And there we are now. So this is 10 years from now. And lo and behold, it basically says in 10 years from now, we hit 1 million on trend line, right? So that's the first observation. We're on track to do 1 million on trend line. The second observation here is we calculate the standard deviation, which is around 31%, right? Which is to say that we're going up by 10 to the power 0.3, which is 2, or we're going down by half, okay? So we can go down by half or we double, and that's roughly kind of the annual sort of standard deviation that we expect. And we know from the analysis that we either go 1 standard deviation up or exceptionally 2 standard deviations up, as we did here, which was 2017. We were 2 standard deviations up. Here we're actually even a little bit higher than 2 standard deviations, 2.5, 3 standard deviations up, but the average is sort of 2 standard deviations up on the upside and then 1 on the downside, right? Now, when I say we're going to get to 1 million in 10 years, that's on trend line. Now, it's very possible that we could get to, in 4 years, we could get to 250,000, and then we could be at 4 times that, or 2 standard deviations. And we sort of see that here. I calculated it here in this table here. And I figured 2 standard deviations could happen in June of 2028, less than 4 years we could be at 2 standard deviations, and in which case the upper bound would be at 1 million, roughly, right? So is it possible we hit 1 million? Yeah, it's possible that we jump there inside of 4 years, at around 4 years from now. We're not going to see 1 million in the next 2 years. I just do not think that's going to be the case. What can we expect in the next 2 years? Well, if we kind of look at this upper band, where are we now? Here, I think we could be at 500,000 in 2 years, right? I think 500,000 in 2 years is possible. So that's what the data is. A little bit interesting in terms of the slope has gone down since before we expected that. The other thing that has happened here is that we are actually now valued, right? So the model right now, if you go here, what's the model? So the model right now is it's about 77. I can't exactly figure out which cell to look at here, but it's about 77 is the model. Oh yeah, I know where it is. Here's the model. So let's go to here. The model is 70. Let's just say 70. It's almost 77, 70, right? 1,000. So here we are at 62,000. The model's at 78,000. So we're very cheap relative to the model. So I think we're definitely undervalued. We're 20% undervalued relative to the model, and we're going into, the third year of a bull market. I mean, this thing could really go a lot higher. The last thing I want to point out is my favorite graph of all, this graph. And this graph is you take the log of the Bitcoin prices. Now you average the log prices, right? And you get a log, an average of log price, and you plot that at the time, right? And you see this graph here. And this thing has just like a 99% correlation. It's unbelievable. So if you smooth out things over an average of 4 years, the correlations are crazy high. So I think this is pretty much all you need to know from the point of view of power law. I think this is amazing data. Oh shit, I didn't even show that stuff. Huh. Now let me go back and let me start showing this. Ignore what I previously said. Let me start moving. Okay. So now I need to show this stuff. Terrible. All right, guys. Sorry for that. Didn't realize I wasn't showing my data. Let me actually restream with my data. I know. You need to share my screen. Okay, I get it. Let me share the screen. Okay, here we go. Here we get to the sheets. Okay. Now we go. Now we can see the screen. Okay, so let's take a look at the screen. Everybody can see the screen now. We're all good. And I just want to show, okay, here we are, October 6th, and I'm using all my own numbers, okay? I know, check the chat, I get it. So I'm using all my own numbers, and I wanted to point out where we are with all this stuff. Okay, so let's first of all take a look at the numbers. So first thing is you'll notice the slope was 5.7 last I really went to this particular spreadsheet, which was in March. The slope has decreased to 5.55. So it's a decrease in slope, which means we're going up slower. That's normal. You know why it's normal? Because time has elapsed. And so the slope should go down a little bit in general. Well, it's not only because of that, but the slope is going down. The slope is drifting down a little bit here. The intercept, let's not worry about. The correlation is really, really high. Now, what I plotted here is where does the slope intercept 10 to the power 6, which is 1 million, right? Well, it intercepts it, and it turns out 1.4 in this log unit, right? Which it turns out is 2034. So it's 10 years from now. So here we are now. In 10 years, we're going to hit 1 million on trend line, right? That's the first observation. The second observation is that the standard deviation hasn't changed that much. It's still around 30% in log space. What that means is in normal space, it doubles. It's a doubling from the trend line. And so 2 standard deviations, which is kind of your upper bound for a peak, would be 4 times the trend line. So if you ask yourself, when does this model get to 250,000? Well, we kind of have an idea when it gets to 250,000. We can actually plot it out. And it's in June of 2028, right? So if we're peaking in June of 2028, not dropping, right? We don't know when these bear markets will come or go. So far, it's been 4 years, but this may not be, right? It could be that we're at 2 standard deviations from that, which would take us to 1 million. So I would say the absolute earliest that we're going to get to 1 million would be 4 years from today. The more likely case is, something like 7 years from today with a 1 standard deviation, and then the more realistic model is at trend line in 10 years. So I think that's kind of when we get to 1 million. First thing. What else did I have? The second thing I want to say is this thing is inevitable, and this is my favorite graph here, which is if you just look at the log of price and you average it out over the last 4 years, and you plot it in log time, you get this perfect graph. So if you think that this is going to change in the next 4 years, I don't think so, or the next 10 years. This thing seems like it's going on a complete deterministic path. So I really have very strong belief that the log of Bitcoin price is going to do this. What Bitcoin price does next week, next month, next year even, I don't know. But I do believe in this. You average it out over 4 years, you get this. Sina actually just made a very simple observation, which is if you just look at the 4 year moving average of Bitcoin, straight moving average, you plot it out over time, and you see it's a curve going up. Now I prefer this where you're looking at everything in log space, but regardless, right? This is not something that's going to. It's not kind of something that's going to move around very much. It doesn't look like it. There's nothing that seems like it's changing this graph. And, we've now had 8 months worth of ETFs, and 8 months worth of ETFs haven't really fundamentally changed this graph either. So, anyways, you can go to this. I'll put a link to this spreadsheet. You can take a look. You can look at it if you want. It's kind of a work in progress, but I started with Ben Sigma's spreadsheet. I changed it around a little bit. Added a few things, added this thing, added a few other parameters, added this, these historical bands Ben did. But that gives you an idea. So, and the last thing I think is just where are we right now today? What's the fair value? Well, the fair value right now, if you look kind of, where are we going to be? Right now, we're at 78,352, right? So we're, according to this, or is that right? Yeah, no, sorry. Somewhere between 76,000 and 78,000. So let's call it 77,000. That's the kind of the current fair value of the market. This agrees with where Sina's saying exactly. So I'm super happy that I'm in agreement with Sina on why so bearish. The model isn't bullish or bearish. The model is the model. Okay, so when everybody says you're bearish, no, this is a model. This is the data. You may not like the data. You don't like the data, but this is the data. You don't really need to see the live. Okay, well, I can hide the live chat. Let's hide the live chat. How do I hide the live chat? I forget how to hide the live chat. Anyways, how do I don't even know how to hide the live chat, to be honest. But yeah, that's more or less the thing. We can't even get to six figures. Why talk about $1 million? We are going to get to $1 million, Daniel. We're completely going to get to $1 million. Supply doesn't matter. Supply completely matters. Law of conservation of energy. Not really. Doesn't have much to do with the law of conservation of energy. Let's see, what's it? If you didn't get to stack before 2017, you're not going to ever become Bitcoin rich. I disagree. Okay, so, and the reason I disagree is this. You have, in the next 10 years, according to the model, you have the opportunity to increase any investment you make by 15x. Okay? So if you have $100,000 to invest, you'll have an opportunity to get to 1.5 million. You may not say that's rich. It's not rich, but it's a very significant increase from 100,000. So I posted something today, which I think is accurate, which is, Naval said, you're never going to get rich if you run out your time. And I think that is true. You will never get rich if you run out your time. But if you run out your time and then get paid in Bitcoin, I think you can get rich. So I think if you've got a decent amount of cash flow coming in, and you're just converting that into Bitcoin, as long as you got something that's growing at 35%, 40% compounded ARR, you're going to do great. You need an assistant so bad. Well, don't follow my channel. It's fine. I'm not getting an assistant, so forget that. 1 million price Kruger Gulfstream, probably. I guess the question is which model? Definitely some form of plane, but Gordon 22. I look forward to being bankless. Okay. Oh, on the Bitcoin standard. 71 witness. Yeah, I mean, look, I think at any age, right? At any age. But look, we've got now this amazing vehicle for saving. That's my point, right? And my point is, if you're young, you have no assets. Well, great. You then get a job and start stacking as much as you possibly can. And then guess what? In 10 years, you're going to be pretty well off. I think it's a better idea right now. I have a 17-year-old, so I kind of advise, and if, sort of his friends' world, I would say to anybody who's under 30, I would say, look, your best bet right now is to make as much money as you can, get some cash flow, and put it into Bitcoin. Now, if you have an opportunity, you see a way to make $1 million through starting a company or something that's very clear and you're willing to risk it, great. But, having a guy, I've started 10 companies and sold them. And I think that, it was definitely a time to do that. I think right now, I don't think I think you're better off right now, especially for sort of most people. Most people have got something. I would say you're better off kind of just investing it in Bitcoin. You need a helper. People want me to get an assistant. Maybe. Okay, I will listen to it. I'm just doing this out of my for whatever reason. I don't actually know. How do we know Sailor stores his cash? Do we know how Sailor stores his cash? I think we know some. So MSCR said that they have multiple custodians, Coinbase being one of them. And I think BitGo was announced as another one. That's what I think. Say the conservation of energy and washing. I still can't read the screen. Okay. I'm going share screen. Okay. Serve in the system. People want me to get in the system. Trend's amazing. It is. It's not. It's just slow enough to get the get rich quickers out. I agree. Look, I think the key thing here is you want to stack and you want to hodl. You don't want to be selling, right? I mean, if you did want to take some little bit off at the, if we get to something like, 2 times trend line, great, do that. Otherwise, I would not do anything. Large share construction real estate principle. I don't understand that. How much is a good amount of Bitcoin? There's no good amount. There's no good amount of Bitcoin. Like, you can have 1 Bitcoin. That's great. I think I think a good amount of Bitcoin is 1 Bitcoin. That's what I would say. Why? There's only 21 million of us who ever can have 1 Bitcoin. That's the fact, right? And in reality, once you factor in institutionally held Bitcoin and lost Bitcoin, the real number is closer to 10 million. So there's only 10 million people in the world who can ever have 1 Bitcoin. So I think if you can hold on to your 1 Bitcoin, that's fantastic. Now, is 1 Bitcoin going to make you completely rich? Probably if you wait 20 years, right? And probably. You have to wait 20 years though, to really get rich with 1 Bitcoin. And Daniel says he's been stacking since mid-2017. He can still buy a crib. I still can't buy a crib. Well, so mid-2017, we're at 3,000 roughly. You've done pretty well. You're up 15x on your stack, Daniel. That's not bad, man. In what, 6 years? It's like, no, 7 years. Not terrible. Like anything, like if you're an individual, you shouldn't be speculating on any of this other stuff. Literally, like you should not. Calls on MSDR, none of it. You shouldn't be, because you're introducing additional risk into the system. I think it makes no sense. If you're, who's buying MSDR is institutions who can't buy Bitcoin, who want to get this quote unquote leverage. There's a lot of reasons, right? But you as an individual do not need to go buy MSDR or calls on MSDR or MSDX or anything else, is my opinion. You might do very well with it, but you might also not. Let's see what else. Wire Chase, $200. Yeah. Wire Chase, $200 to Mt. Gox. I traded on Mt. Gox. Yeah. Anyways, for 1 Bitcoin, still have the receipt. Okay. MSTL, look, I think Michael Saylor's a genius. I think he's great. He's fantastic for our industry. I don't think it's terrible to have some MSTR, but I just I do think that for most individuals, most people, if anybody's watching me right now, I would say you should really focus on actual Bitcoin. Actual Bitcoin, not even the ETF. Just get some actual Bitcoin, learn about it, get it into good multi-sig, learn about security, all this stuff. That's your best bet. As you get a little older, you might be like, ETF sounds pretty good, because I've been having problems dealing with, OPSEC. I need to think about retirement planning. My accountant tells me ETF's better. Those are all really good reasons. If you're 30 years old, you should just get actual Bitcoin. Am I going to still be buying in 25? Am I going to be buying in 25? It depends if I have some big cash flow coming. So I still have some private investments in companies, and I can't predict it, but sometimes I get these payouts. I got one in 2024. A nice kind of some VCs came in and bought in a stake of a company that I invested in, got some money. So it was good. I still have a few of those things. They're kind of like lottery tickets. But yeah, I think you can buy in every year. We're going into a multiple decade period of buying opportunities, and I would say keep on buying. That's kind of what are you thinking of IBIT options? IBIT options are good. I mean, they're going to be very good for a lot of people. It's going to be good for the price of Bitcoin. I would say most individuals should not buy IBIT options or sell them. For us boomers, you have a small amount of paper wallet. Are you kidding me, Thomas? A paper wallet? No, don't. You don't need paper wallet. I mean, paper wallet. You could be like yeah. I mean, I would definitely go with something like, at the minimum, ledger with passphrase, right? That's the minimum I would say. Gamma suite options. Listen, I think there is some real chance that we have some explosive movement in the next 3 years, right? 4 years. So we know what does the power law tells us? Let's go back to the power law real quick. This is what the power law tells us, right? Let's go to the power law. Power law tells us that it says something about the trend, right? It doesn't tell us about the gamma squeeze or anything else. It just says the trend is going to 1 million. That's what it tells us, right? Now, we have done kind of not a lot. We just recovered territory here for the last really 4 years, right? Now, when we get into a bull market here, what is this thing going to look like? Okay. Now, a lot of us quants have been connecting these lines, right? They connect this, and this, and we sort of looks like we're sort of having lower tops, right? But not a lot of data, right? What if this next bump here sort of exploded upwards? It could. I definitely think it's going to revert back to this line. So I have a lot of belief in this trend line here, right? But I do think we could see a movement quite high here, right? And by the way, this is all in log term. So this is 10 to the power 6, I think we could see something like 500,000 on next year. It's possible, right? And if not next year, it could be the year after. That's kind of my general framework. I think we have, when you're long Bitcoin, you sort of have this fundamental optionality, right? There's this fundamental reason that somebody just gets into a mania about Bitcoin. Suddenly Trump gets elected, they're talking about making it legal tender, or who knows what they're doing, right? They talk about this Bitcoin strategic reserve. This could be amazing, right? So there's a lot of things like that. Or we get into this, Kamala gets in, and now we have this, maybe this we're really scared about the system. It looks like it's going to collapse, and we just, gold goes really crazy, Bitcoin goes crazy. So I think there's some gamma squeeze. There's some irrational possibility. Jeff Ross, for instance, it's possible, right? I do think that you have to look at this stuff in terms of probabilities, right? So is there a probability that it goes to 475? Yeah. Is it likely? Probably not. I would say probably not a 50% chance, but wouldn't completely surprise me. But I do think that if we do get there, we're probably above trend. And I do think you probably should sell some of your Bitcoin, not a ton, but just sell some and then if you're doing the Kelly criterion sort of averaging, I would just sell to your Kelly criterion, So power law, massive deflation. Now, power law works with deflation, blah, 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 due to AI. First of all, we saw what happened on these docs. Even if you do get ChatGPT that can replace lawyers and engineers, some random dock worker is sitting there saying, "I'm not bringing in the goods unless you pay me." So Jason Lowry, great, fantastic. The man is a visionary, So yeah, I think Jason Lowry is great. And I do think that from a national security standpoint, I think if you get Trump in, right, and you get us building a Bitcoin strategic reserve, I think this could change the game, right? Because all of a sudden now, the U.S. could be in a position that Spain was in the in the 16th century, where they had all the gold, right? And I think for us to have this massive Bitcoin reserve could be fantastic. It could really secure America. It could be really great. So yeah, I'm a big fan. So that's kind of it. But anyways, I just wanted to give this kind of really brief view on the power law. I love computing the numbers myself. I go back and I do them. There's Giovanni's still coming up with these great things that they're fantastic. I love that the work that him and the group are doing. It's just fantastic stuff. I'm talking to these guys every day, and there's all kinds of new stuff that's coming out. Ask them to do this quantile regression sort of test to see, when, according to these quantiles, right? If you look at sort of what percentage of data was at, this much movement up on the power law. And let's say you say, I want to take 99%, and you can get quantiles for that. So I love these guys. I think they're great. I definitely think it's good to kind of go back and get your own snapshot, get your own data for this power law, especially if you get a lot of money riding on it, like me. So I like to it's like trust but verify. So I trust, I verify. Socialist takeover could be good for Bitcoin, to be honest, but I'm not necessarily in favor of Harris. But I do think I think there's a scenario where the Harris economy is actually very positive for Bitcoin. The question is really going to be who's going to print the most money, right? I think the number one thing that's going to determine Bitcoin over the next 4 years is going to be M2. If we can have lower interest rates, high liquidity worldwide, that's going to be very good for Bitcoin. I tend to believe that we're done with halving cycles right now, and we are now moving into liquidity cycles. So, there's great. I'm not saying there's not going to be bear markets, and I'm not saying they're not going to be terribly painful, but I do think that going forward, Ancina, for example, did a really interesting interview with, I can't remember his name, but they quantitatively analyzed the impact of ETFs versus miners selling. And the ETFs were 16 times a big of impact as miners were in 2020, this year, 2024, 16 times. So I think, if we look at the next halving, I just don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. And anybody who's sitting there talking about halvings, I think it's just over. We're done, effectively done. Now, If you're in the mining business, yeah, sure, it's going to make a huge difference for you. But if you're in just the regular business of holding Bitcoin, then I don't think you need to be worrying too much about money. Now, at the event Bitcoin First, we are going to have Bob Burnett coming. So I've talked to Bob Burnett. I think he's just, first of all, he's one of the smartest guys in the space, period. And he's great. So he's going to talk about mining, and he's private miner. He's not running, he's not running, just a public company and just trying to pump his stock. He's trying to make money by mining, and he's made money every year in the last 5 years, he said. So I definitely think he knows a lot about opportunities, and I think yeah. So it depends how they print the money for it. So yeah, I agree, and I don't disagree. I disagree. So I think that they're going to do a lot of very ineffectual things. Like, for example, I think right now the Harris administration is printing a ton of money and creating a lot of government jobs that are doing absolutely nothing. Yeah, so, and I agree, Luke Knight, major gains for BTC would be likely offset by higher taxes. Completely agree, right? So, part of the problem with the Harris scenario is Bitcoin price nominally will go up. But if they increase cap gains to 28%, which they're probably going to do, at least they want to do. Now, whether they can get that passed, I don't know. If they do unrealized CGT, yeah, it's going to be an absolute disaster for us. As long as, we're selling, if we're selling in that period. If you just wait it out and wait till the Republicans take it over, maybe you can wait it out. But maybe you can't wait it out because there will never be another Republican in the House, right? If you believe Elon Musk, he's saying that basically this is the last election. After this, there'll be so much immigration that there will never be a Republican in the House. Unrealized cap gains would destroy the stock market. 100% agree. Look, I'm sort of hopeful that Trump gets in. I'm hopeful that cap gains actually decrease. And I think if we have lower capital gains, less regulation, a Bitcoin reserve, a change in the SEC, I don't see why the minute that Trump gets in, Bitcoin's not at 100,000 would surprise me. Like, I think it's going to 100,000 in a New York minute. And then I think it's going to 200,000, in a New York afternoon. That's kind of my gut feel. Listen, I think there's an optionality here. I think as Bitcoiners, regardless of your politics, if you're just interested in the price of Bitcoin, you want Trump to win. I think if Kamala wins, it's not going to be bad. It's the power law is the power law. It will be good. And even if they want to increase cap gains, doesn't mean they're going to be able to increase cap gains. So, I'm mildly optimistic either way. But I'm extremely optimistic in 31 days today. I think 31 days till the election. If 33 days from now Trump's elected, we're all going to be rolling around in a lot of money. That's kind of my gut feel. Yeah, there's also some other stuff that's being discussed now with Trump. Like, if you leave the U.S., you're non-resident, you may not have to pay any taxes. That's another thing that's being talked about. And I know British HODL had some stuff on that, which would be amazing. It would just be unbelievable, right? Like, go to move to El Salvador, pay no taxes, 0. Like, how great would that be? So who went radio silent? Somebody went radio silent. Let's see. Jason Lowry. Yeah, well, maybe I'll have an opportunity to talk to him in a few weeks. Maybe. Can't promise anything, but if you come to Bitcoin first, you might be able to talk to him. UAE today removed all taxes for crypto transactions. I did not know that, Entourage. That is amazing. I got to tweet about that. I got to read about that and find out about that. I thought they were cracking down a little bit on using it for illegal tender. Huh. El Salvador, here we come. Yeah. Look. Oh, El Salvador. Or you know what? Argentina now is talking also. There's rumors that they may be going into a sort of a Bitcoin standard. They met with Billy, I think last week. So yeah, and I've been to both Argentina and El Salvador. They're both very nice countries. I think I might go to sell our BTC. The only thing, Matt, I will say is I am not completely convinced that December is the end of the cycle. That's the only thing I will say. I think that, I think everybody's thinking it is, and I probably think that a lot of people will try to preempt that and start selling in June just because they think it's going to happen in November. And maybe there will be a little dip, but maybe we're done with cycles in the traditional sense, maybe, right? So I would say the variable that I would use there is something like CINA's volatility adjusted index. And I just reposted that about CINA's volatility adjusted index. So where did I do it? Here we go. Let me share that real quick. Share the volatility adjusted index. Share. Yeah, so this is this is a really good analysis, I think. So, here, nobody can see me. Okay, so there's this volatility. So right now, this is CINA's analysis, but I agree with it, right? Here we are. We're at 62,000. The power law says 77,000, right? And if we look here at this volatility adjusted power law index, we're not at sort of nuclear winter anymore, but we're very cheap. Right? We're in the green. No warning here, nothing. This is like a really great thing. So I would say what I would do, and again, we have plenty of time to do this, but if this metric, which seems to be a pretty good metric, right? Look at how this metric time things. Here we are, December of 2017, boom, red. Amazing time to sell. This thing here, right? 2021, January, boom, hit red, sell, right? End of 2013, we hit 1,000, boom, sell, right? So this is a great sort of practical time. I think if we get in the red, that's when you want to get out of it. If we get in the red to dark orange, then you can start getting out of this stuff. We're so far away from being in that red zone that I think I don't think it. No prognosticator TA here. TA is terrible. What is TA? This is not TA though. This is a little different, guys. It's not TA. There's a really big difference between like this power law stuff and TA. I don't know. I mean, if you don't get that, I don't know where to start. But it's January 20th, BTC tops out. Okay, why? No reason. It has to double by then or no? I don't know. Why does it have to double? I don't know. These are just sort of theories that nobody really knows, right? I think I do want to have one session on in this Bitcoin first about, what do we expect kind of in the next, if we get into kind of these kind of frenzy, right? And we know what these like. Look, I was here in 2017. I know what it felt like. I was there in 2021, 2020, right? I know what it felt like when things were going completely crazy. We're not there now, right? So let's revisit that when things go completely crazy. What does power law 77,000 mean? I think what you're talking about there is, let's go back to that one. This one here, right? So what does this mean, 77,000? This says that the trend line for the power law is 77,000, right? That's what it means. And this trend line has been amazingly accurate at predicting Bitcoin from when Bitcoin was $1, right? So, you've got predictive ability from $1 to order of magnitude $100,000. Pretty amazing, huh? Yeah. Six orders of magnitude. And you can even argue from 10 cents. So 7 orders of magnitude. So, but yeah, HODL, that's it. I mean, I think the one good thing about this power law, and I just want to reiterate, it's not a tool for trading. What it's a tool is a tool to give you conviction about why you should be holding potentially more Bitcoin in your portfolio than you would otherwise do. Now, balance the risk of owning too much Bitcoin. There's this whole other part, which is this Kelly criterion, and it's like, even if you're like totally bullish on Bitcoin, even if you completely believe that Bitcoin is going to 1 million, what is the best percentage of Bitcoin to hold in your portfolio, right? And there's a lot of math on this, and I'll TLDR it by saying 70%. That's kind of the max you should hold. And the reason you should hold something like 70%, there's a couple of reasons. One is this thing's so volatile that if it does go down, you want to be able to buy more, right? And then you could get to 70% again, right? So it gives you the ability to buy more and to do that. The second is you may have some unexpected life decisions. You may have to go to the hospital. You may get divorced. Who knows what's going to happen in your life? And you don't want to have to liquidate your Bitcoin at the absolute worst point, right? So there's just a lot of data, which is to say, whatever your kind of income level, whatever your net worth is, do not go much beyond 70%. So